Now, few footballers divide opinion more than Eddie Nketiah at this football club. For my 2 pence on Eddie Nketiah, I think, across the course of this video, not only with the clips, I'm just going to offer my opinion. I personally think, firstly, he's harshly judged by fans. I do personally think he's in a very difficult scenario in that, you're not Gabriel Jesus. You don't have the guile and the skill and the tenacity that Jesus plays, nor are you the most agile and eye-catching of footballers that have graced this club in terms of playing up front or in the squad. I do think he's competent in his role. I do think he's, all right in that role. I do think he's a good bench/rotation option at best. I do think it's a difficult job in that how develop when you're not playing consistently 90 minutes or significant minutes. That being said, Eddie Nketiah can be under no illusion. When when you signed a new deal, until you develop anywhere else, you're on the peripherals of things and you're second in command to Jesus, potentially third if you consider that Trossard and Martinelli have played false nines. Maybe Mikel Arteta deems to use Kai Havertz's physicality in the absence of Gabriel Jesus. But at the same time, again, football is harsh, life is harsh. As Arsenal develop as a footballing club, the dynamic shift really. But I do think fans are very harsh on Eddie Nketiah. I don't think he's eye-catching, but I do think he's competent and I do think he's improved in that role. Whether, and we'll get through this, whether he should be the number one striker if Jesus isn't there, whether we should be in a position where we're relying on Eddie Nketiah in the absence of Jesus, or if we should bring in a striker better, that's another conversation, and that's one that has to be firmly placed at the feet of Mikel Arteta. As much as I think he's assembled a great squad, we all know last season and the season before that, when we missed out on Champions League, a couple of players are not there. We're in issues, and I think Mikel Arteta has gone from having a strong 11 to somewhat a strong squad. To be fair to Eddie Nketiah, he showed he could fill in with the absence of Jesus, and actually he's shown he can fill in that occasion. For me, in my notes, as I've put, I think he's harshly judged by fans. I can understand because he's deal. He's been on the scene for a while. He does wear the number 14. I do think he needs to score more, but to be able to do that, you need to get more game time. But at Arsenal, you're a rotation/bench player or impactor, as Arteta said, at best. Game time is not going to come, and I do think Eddie Nketiah in the next couple of years, unless there's significant development, which obviously shifts the momentum to starting a lot more, I think there's a reality he could leave, because as much as I think he's got a good position at Arsenal, he's comfortable, he's loved by the manager, he's got a role here. How much better would you be if you could grab 20, 30 league games, really? And at some point, he's going to need to do that, really, if I'm completely honest with you. I think if you look at Eddie Nketiah, since he's developed into the first team, and the problem with him is he's 23, 24 odd years of age. He is developing well. He is ticking along. The problem is Arsenal don't have time. We do have time, but you get the point. We're trying to be a team that wins trophies. We haven't got time for everybody to develop, and strikers tend to peak quite late. Respectfully, I'm not comparing Eddie Nketiah to Aubameyang, Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane. And, I know he's a wide forward, but Mohamed Salah, them names I said there, some of the best players, or were some of the best players in their roles at a point in time. Where were they at Eddie Nketiah's age? Where were they at anything from 20, 21, 22, 23, 24? My point is not to say Eddie Nketiah is going to be like them, is that you need time. But at the end of the day, you never get time. We need delivery. Do I think Eddie Nketiah could do a job in the absence of Jesus? Again, 100%. Do I think he's going to score goals? Probably not. I'm not sure, but I think since he's been blooded into the first team, I don't think you can deny his general. He used to just stand still and be known as a fox in the box. His general play has improved. His ability to drop deep and win fouls and actually muck in defensively, as shown last season, probably Spurs away. His general play has improved. His ability to work the channels has improved. His link-up play, the positions he holds, his timing of runs, his decision-making. I wouldn't describe Eddie Nketiah, where the first team's concerned, as clinical, but I do think documentary, and I like how he comes across in interviews. Whatever you say about Eddie Nketiah, I think one of his best qualities is his resilience. He's able to shut noise out and get on with his job. His realism, he knows how good he is and how other players are better. He backs himself, and I'd say he always surprises people. This was someone that was released by Chelsea. This was someone that maybe a lot of Arsenal fans, myself included. To be fair, the outside noise can talk. If Mikel Arteta believes in you, then for good or bad, you've got to do the job, Eddie Nketiah. I think he has been improving. Facts remain. Do we have the kind of time to wait for him and his development to really get there, to be that talisman? We kind of need success kind of now. Money has been spent, expectations have been laid, progress has been made. I first became a real fan of Eddie Nketiah upon his return from Leeds. On the face of it, the lead spell was a failure because you went there, you did not really play. But I think he came back stronger, more tenacious, more ambitious, just a better player after working with Bielsa. So I do think that loan spell probably helped him in more ways than we can consider. He came back sharper, he looked more mature, he looked more resilient on the surface, and he's able to cope with not playing because he's been there before, and that's the reality of a footballer. Game time is critical for a young player. And Eddie Nketiah, bar the stages he gets into the team, you look at when, the season he signed a new deal, he got an opportunity last season under Jesus. In Jesus' absence, he filled in. He does quite well in terms of playing, but he's never going to be a man at Arsenal Football Club until you develop where you can sit there and say, okay, cool, you're going to play 20, 30 games. And selfishly for Ed, the false nine for Chelsea didn't really work out. Is he going to play Trossard? Now that can work in certain games. The same goes for Martinelli. Plan doesn't change for Balogun. And while I think Balogun's ceiling is higher, I'm not going to lie, in terms of what Mikel Arteta demands for a striker, Eddie Nketiah has been on the first team scene in that regards a lot longer, and I think he's better at that stuff. In terms of goal scoring, I'm more likely to bet my life on Balogun to bag. But in terms of all the actions across 90 minutes, working the channel, linking up with your teammates, pressing, all of these sort of things, Eddie Nketiah undoubtedly is more polished than Balogun. Hopefully this opens up a scenario for Balogun to play, who's currently injured as well. Ironically, you've got Balogun and Jesus injured. We're praying to God nothing happens in that regards, people. At the end of the day, like last season, we just need him to perform. We just need him to perform in what Arteta requires from a front man. While I would like, and this kind of goes to Jesus as well, I want my number 9 to score goals. I want a number 9 like with Aubameyang, where the football club was over in France on loan. Again, last season's luck doesn't mean it's going to correlate to this season. But if the Martinellis, if the Trossards, if the Sakas, if Odegaard can get 15 odd league goals, if Havertz can chip in Xhaka's absence, even Declan Rice, who against Monaco played in a more advanced role, if these players can fill in where required, then we should be all right. Now, again, does it make me nervous to not have Jesus starting against Manchester City, let alone missing the first few weeks of the season? 100%, really and truly. Do I think we should have got another striker? 100%. But last season, our strikers weren't our top goal scorers. We was relying on others. But again, if we want to be a team that can get closer to 100 goals, we probably need our forward to do that. At the end of the day, I think Eddie Nketiah is harshly judged by fans. I don't think he's eye-catching. I don't think he's a maverick. I don't think he's someone that you could bet your life to get you out of trouble and snatch you 3 points. But what I do believe is he's confident enough in his abilities, and he's competent and consistent enough to get the job done in what Mikel Arteta demands. Whether we should be in a scenario where, a team that wants to finish top 3 minimum and aspire to win the league and whatnot, if we should be in a scenario where we're relying on Eddie Nketiah, then that's a question for the man that assembled the squad, because I love the way Mikel Arteta has assembled the squad and where we're going. But if we're relying on Eddie Nketiah for Jesus, that's a significant drop-off. And just generally, I am a bit nervous for the start of this season, because now you've got Zinchenko nursing a knock. Jesus has had minor surgery. I wonder if that's anything to do with the tackles he received against Barca so well without him. But injuries are not isolated to Arsenal, they happen. Personally, I don't think we should be in a position where we're kind of relying on Eddie Nketiah, but he's given, he's given every reason to be confident. I'm never going to expect Eddie Nketiah at this moment in time to be clinical for Arsenal Football Club. He's played 89 times in the Premier League and has 14 goals and 4 assists a match. Now, to be fair, how many of them have been 90-minute games? He's played 131 times for this club with 5 assists and 32 goals. As I said, in the Premier League, he has 14 goals and 4 assists in 89 appearances, people. And at 24 years of age, it's now time to start developing. But I think he's ticking along where he should be. I just think for him, maybe he should bust out on loan or leave permanently in general. But this season, that cannot happen. We're going to have to rely on potentially Eddie Nketiah, Havertz, Trossard, Martinelli, maybe even Balogun. I think Balogun's the less likely to get a run in the team up front, really and truly, if I'm honest with you. And to be brutally honest with you, when Eddie Nketiah has had a run of games, looking at the info in front of me, I think he's done all right. And to be honest, I'm sure by now you would have seen the images the images on this video, he's done all right. Even when, you know, when he's got, and what I mean by when he's got an opportunity, when he's can play consistent 90 minutes, you know, I actually think he's done well in a lot of games where he hasn't necessarily scored and been unfortunate in that regard. I think he was very good Spurs away. I think he did very well and deserved his goal in the 3-1 victory against West Ham. I think he did very well Brighton away. I think obviously the poster boy for the Manchester United game with his 2 goals snatched it. The whole team was poor collectively against Everton and Brentford and Manchester City, even though Eddie did get an assist, and he didn't have much to scream and shout about against Villa, but we was able to still get 3 points, you know. And when we did drop points, it wasn't the fact of Eddie Nketiah, it was the fact that the whole team was poor. I do think for what that's worth, Eddie could be a lot more clinical and composed in front of goal. He has done quite well when he's been afforded, whether we like it or not, a proper run of games. You know, you go back the season as well, he's come in and done quite well. Again, you know, he bagged twice against Chelsea, and we all remember the good celebration. He had a decent game again against Manchester United, Everton, and Leeds. He did well. Obviously, against Spurs, he should have bagged. And to be honest, Eddie Nketiah's decision making at times in front of goal, while I think it's improved, I'm sure against City, I wanted you to pass the ball a lot sooner. These things could improve. We was all poor at Newcastle away, and he did bag against Everton. But, you know, I don't think Eddie Nketiah has let the team down consistently, and it's a bit harsh on the striker. A striker's a double-edged game in that, you know, you could be crap over 90 minutes, people, but come 91st minute of added on time, you score, you're a hero. And likewise, you could play well all game, but if you miss that one chance, nobody really cares again. And I actually, as I said earlier, when I started thinking there's, you know, Eddie Nketiah might be a decent player for us, or to give young players time, is again, like I said, when Eddie returned from the Leeds loan, because he came back in January of 2020. I think he got his first start in February, and I went to the first 2 games that you could probably see in 2020. I think against Newcastle he didn't score, but I was struck by how strong he looked, his general play, and all of these sort of things. Everton he scored and he did very well, and I think he did well in, from what I can remember, in that half an hour against West Ham all those years back. And again, everyone seems to be terrible against Manchester City. For me, people, I don't think we should be in a situation where Eddie Nketiah is relied upon. I would like someone, if you could, better than Jesus, someone that offers different qualities to Jesus, someone that is levels like that. But I do think Eddie Nketiah has the competencies to do the job he's done, provided all the other dynamics that were there last season happen. And if anything, really, as much as I love Mikel Arteta and praise him for building the squad, if anything, surely you have to ask the question of the man that's assembled the squad, because some would say, rightly so, I think there's every logic, you shouldn't be in a position where Eddie Nketiah could make the difference up front. He should be a squad player, he can do his thing, but we shouldn't be this. And as we've seen, to be fair, Eddie's an exception to the rule because he did well in Jesus' absence. But as we've seen last season and seasons before that, where you look at the season we finished 5th and we had that difficult run of games with players being injured. You look at last season where, you know, the absence of Saliba, the absence of a number of players, really. We know if Zinchenko's, Saliba, Jesus ain't there, we're not the same team. And it's down for Arteta to mitigate against that. We've been here before, really. So in the same way that I have to stop looking past Rob Holding because you're not picking yourself, you're not assembling the squad, we should never rely on you. I have to extend the same quality to Eddie. I've got complete confidence in Eddie Nketiah's abilities to be competent. Again, as I said at the start, whether he's going to be the match winner, whether he can get you out of jail, where he's a player that could score 20 league goals and get us closer to being a 100-goal a season team in the league, I don't know. I just think the man's harshly judged by fans, you know, and I'm not talking about fans that have, you know, I'm talking about the extreme opinions, you know, I'm not talking about fans that have, you know, support Eddie all the way, but have their thoughts. I just think too many people are quick to get on his back. Even when he came into the team for Jesus, there was games he played well, and you don't have a goal or anything to really show for it. So, you know, in this day and age, if you ain't scoring or assisting, or you're not getting high ratings on the many apps that fans look at, it's agenda season. I think Eddie deserves support. Ultimately, you know, the club's got high standards and he's going to live or die by them. End of the day, you've signed a new big deal. You've been on the scene for a while now. You're 24 years of age. You captained us against Monaco. You're wearing the number 14. When you get your chance, take it, really. Because there were points last season where some fans, they'll probably deny it. We actually look better with Eddie instead of Jesus. So we'll have to see, man. But I do think he deserves our support. I do think he deserves a chance. Again, for what it's worth, you know, in terms of improvements at this football team, if you could bring in a more target man striker or someone better than Eddie, I'm all for that. If you could bring in a right winger to compete with Saka, I'm all for that. Personally, I think we need one more central midfielder. I'm all for that. And anything else Mikel Arteta wants to sign, really. We're still linked with João Cancelo. We're still linked with David Raya in goal. Big up Ramsdale for saving a penalty as well. So yeah, people, smash the like button, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on Eddie Nketiah. Would you give Eddie a chance? Would you play Havertz false nine? Would you play Martinelli or Trossard? Would you play Balogun, bearing in mind Balogun is injured? Or would you, left field choice? But if you lot remember